Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, you read the title, you know exactly what it is that I'm reviewing, and seeing as how this Disney animated feature film is celebrating its anniversary, and not to mention the upload of this review video coming out the day of this Disney animated feature film's anniversary when it came to theaters. That's right, guys. I am reviewing from 2004 Disney's Home on the Range. Yes, Home on the Range. Holy cow. Boy, I have so many fond memories of this Disney animated feature film. It was one of those Disney films I watched a lot when I was little. There was that, and Brother Bear, and Chicken Little later on, and a couple of others, like, say, from Pixar. But yeah, so definitely Home on the Range being one of them, and I'm one of those few people, I know there are plenty of people out there that really enjoy this film, and, some people say that Home on the Range was one of those hand-drawn animated feature films that killed 2D animation, being on the big screen. But really? Because why? I mean, Home on the Range isn't that bad. It's not god-awful. I mean, the critics had said that, while it wasn't disastrous, it was a weak Disney film, and sad but true, it is. But I'd have to say, and I'd have to agree with one of my friends on YouTube, where she said that 8 Crazy Nights was the one that killed 2D animation being on the big screen. I'd say so. I definitely would say so, and agree, because, oh my gosh, 8 Crazy Nights, I tell ya. But, because for Disney at the time, in the early 2000s, they weren't doing that good with, the hand-drawn animated films they were releasing. At least one of them managed to succeed, and that, of course, being Lilo and Stitch. But that was pretty much it, and that's unfortunate. But, like I said, there are those like myself that really enjoy this piece of Disney animation. It's not the strongest, and yeah, it's weak, but at the same time, it's fun to watch. And you can tell because those who worked on this Disney animated feature film, they put their heart into it. You can tell, even when watching the behind the scenes, they were having a great time working on this. Yeah. And one more thing, because before I read the description / the story, because, production on Home on the Range started all the way back in, like, the mid / late 90s after working on Pocahontas. Originally, the title of the film was called Sweating Bullets. Then, later on, when they were developing this animated Western film, yeah, some things changed for the film, and, from leadership, storyline, characters, and, the title, of course, changed to what it is now, Home on the Range. And one element that remained in the film from day one, which being the main antagonist / villain, Alameda Slim. Yeah, he was there from the beginning, and of course, when it finally turned out how it was, he was still there. So, yeah, nice to see. I think, he did get a bit of a wardrobe change and his looks, the mustache he has, but yeah. Okay, but as always, now come to reading the story / the description. When an eviction notice shows up at the gates of the Patch of Heaven dairy farm, 3 cows, Maggie, Grace, and Mrs. Calloway, take it upon themselves to prevent their home from being taken away. To do so, they set out on a quest, along with the sheriff's horse, to collect the ransom on outlaw Alameda Slim, a wanted cattle Rustler. Okay, so the film itself, yeah, and first off, because, as I said, I had so many fond memories watching the film, and I also had some, fond memories of, the DVD, because, I had a DVD copy of Home on the Range, and I remember, checking out the bonus features, playing some of the games, like that yodeling game, and some, like, farm jokes, and that short film that was part of the DVD, and also checking out the behind the scenes, the deleted scenes, and yeah, and with, like, the deleted scenes, because, there were some pretty interesting deleted scenes, and one of them being an alternate opening. It was supposed to open with these three Mexican butterflies, and they would have their song number, which, would be the first song number of the film, called Heroes and Villains and Cows. It's a pretty good song. It's a shame that the three butterflies were cut. I guess it's understandable why, but and if you know this, if you really know this, you can let me know. But the opening in the film itself, pretty good. And first off, like, the Disney logo, like, from Disney and any other movie company, they're always creative on, going for a really cool style and to go with the theming of a movie. Very creative with, their opening logos. And for Home on the Range, because, well, in the style of a Western, and the Disney logo symbol being burned, and it doesn't take too long for us to have our first song, and that being, of course, the title of, the title of the movie, Home on the Range. You ain't home on the range. And one of the first characters that we see in this film is, and I have to say, one of my favorite characters in Home on the Range, Lucky Jack. Yes, Lucky Jack. And Lucky Jack being voiced by, let me see, he's obviously got here. Okay, yeah. Lucky Jack being voiced by Charles Hayde. Yeah, Charles Hayde. So, yeah, our introduction to Lucky Jack is pretty funny, because him getting attacked, like, say, from a coyote, being pecked by owls, and, his head in the mouth of a rattlesnake. It's pretty funny. And the opening song number, You Ain't Home on the Range, is pretty good. And then we even see the sheriff and his horse, Buck. The sheriff being voiced by, Sheriff Sam Brown, and the sheriff being voiced by Richard Rayleigh, if I'm even saying his last name right. Again, you know me sometimes. And Buck the horse being voiced by Cuba Gooding Jr. Cuba. I think it's Cuba. I'm pretty sure, if I'm pronouncing his first name right. And he did a couple of Disney films. There was this and that one film, Snow Dogs. Yeah, that one with him and the late James Coburn. I thought that was, pretty good. Not the best, but it was okay. Yeah, him, James Coburn, and the late Nichelle Nichols. Yeah. So, and then we get a bit of narration in this film from one of the main cows, Maggie, being voiced by Roseanne Barr. And, she's best known for her sitcom show, Roseanne. Yeah. So, we get the introduction of Maggie, and she does a bit of narration. She had a home on the range, but not anymore. And by the way, because with Home on the Range receiving a PG rating, there's a good reason why, because of an utter joke. Because, we get a shot of Maggie's back and, her saying, yeah, they're real. Quit staring. That's how the movie got a PG rating. So, come on. PG's not that bad. So, yeah, sometimes, animated films that, little kids are watching sometimes slip in a joke that, they might not get, but, you get what I'm saying. So, again, she used to have a home on the range, but not anymore, because, well, the cattle rustler, Alameda Slim, and the Willie brothers, well, basically capturing a whole herd of cows. And Maggie's original owner, because having that farm, and Abner, being voiced by Dennis Weaver. I know Dennis Weaver. The name sounds familiar. So Abner, who used to originally be Maggie's owner, he lost that whole herd of cows, and unfortunately, poor old Abner couldn't afford to keep the place, and thus, he had to give Maggie to another farm, and thus, well, her destination and where Abner's going to take her is a dairy farm. And, Maggie saying, hey, a dairy farm? Now we're talking. Hope it's not one of those fat-free places. And thus we get our next song number, which being Little Patch of Heaven, being sung by K.D. Lang. Yeah, K.D. Lang. And by the way, because the songs being done by none other than Alan Menken, although, someone wrote the lyrics, but still, Alan Menken being involved doing the songs, of course. And, of course, doing the music and score as well. And, the songs in this movie, they're not all that bad. They're really good. Little Patch of Heaven is a pretty good song, and like I said, the opening song number, You Ain't Home on the Range, a good one too, kind of catchy. Well, yeah, some of these songs being catchy, especially a memorable song number that comes in a little bit later, until I get to that, and one that's emotional, but again, until I get to those songs as I talk about the film. So, yeah, we of course have the dairy farm, Patch of Heaven, being run by Pearl, and Pearl Pearl Gesner, if I'm saying the last name right, being voiced by the late Carol Cook. Yeah, and she was in that one Don Knotts film where he was a fish, if you know that film. Yeah, I didn't even realize that was her, but yeah. So, and we have the rest, we have the farm animals, we have Mrs. Calloway being voiced by Dame Judi Dench, and Grace being voiced by Jennifer Tilly, and yeah, and this is after she was in Disney and Pixar's Monsters Incorporated as Celia May. So her doing a Disney animated feature film, nice to see. And all the other farm animals, like there's Ollie the pig being voiced by Charlie Dell, and there's Jeb the goat. Jeb was another pretty funny, good character, being voiced by Joe Flattery, if I'm saying the last name right. I remember Joe Flattery best for not just Home on the Range, but I remember he was that funny idiot henchman, in the Sesame Street movie, Follow That Bird, one of the two guys running the circus and captures Big Bird. Yeah, that's him. Yes, Max, I think that was his character's name, I think, yeah. He was also kind of whiny and such, and again, stupid and gets his boss annoyed, so... yes, and also we have, like, 3 little piglets who sometimes get Jeb on his nerves, and, they want their can back from Jeb because Jeb is obsessed with cans and has a whole collection of them. That was a pretty funny scene because, Grace, she's the peacemaker and trying to make things, reason with the 3 little pigs and Jeb the goat, but it's not really working. And Mrs. Calloway, because she's a tough cookie, because, you don't mess with Mrs. Calloway, because she's kind of like the main head of the farm animals, and, she takes care of everything, and, has the 3 little pigs have them have their can back. And it was funny because Mrs. Calloway asking Jeb, don't you have enough cans all of your own? And, Jeb's like, no, not really. But we could clearly see he has plenty. That was pretty funny. The other farm animals on the Patch of Heaven, like there's Larry the Duck, being voiced by Marshall Efron. Yeah. For Larry the Duck, I feel like, and I'm pretty sure, he's a nod to Daffy Duck. I mean, because for one thing, he speaks exactly like Daffy Duck, like this and such, and he also has a striped collar, but for Larry, it's black, because he's a white duck. And Daffy, he's a black duck with a white striped collar. So yeah. Then there's also, there's a rooster, there are those funny chiclets, and there's also, the chickens, there's, well, where was she? Audrey the chicken, being voiced by the late Estelle Harris, aka the voice of Mrs. Potato Head. Audrey was a pretty funny one, and how she sometimes is an overreacted chicken. So, and speaking of that, because, Audrey notices and sees that a new cow has arrived to Patch of Heaven, which being Maggie. Maggie being passed over to Pearl, and that's the last we see of Abner. So, okay, see Abner, and Maggie's introduction is pretty funny, rock and roll music, and actually, fun fact, because Maggie was supposed to be, from the start of the film, just, be there on the dairy farm, Patch of Heaven, just be one of those farm animals, but they changed it to her, moving into Patch of Heaven and so on, and if you know about that. So, yeah, and, the first words that Miss Calloway says, when first seeing Maggie, a showdown cow on a Patch of Heaven. I think that's how she says, showdown cow, and kind of goes well, I guess, not really, and her introducing herself and interacting with the farm animals, and, well, it seems to be going pretty good, especially, she shows off some tricks that she does, and, tossing food and landing in her, she eats it and so on, and, the three pigs, awesome, and there's burp jokes, so, And then the sheriff and Buck, they arrive, and unfortunately, the sheriff gives Pearl some bad news about, her money, paying due to the bank, and, she doesn't have enough to pay them, and if she doesn't, then in a couple of days, they're going to sell the farm, and they're going to sell/auction off Patch of Heaven if they don't receive, the money. And, for Pearl, well, she's by this point screwed. She can't do anything about it. And it seems like that, Patch of Heaven is going to come to an end, and, for Pearl and for her family, which being the farm animals. And that moment where the sheriff, right before he's about to leave, he gives Pearl a suggestion to sell off some of the farms, so that, farm animals, so that way she can, make some more money and, possibly, of course, save the farm. But Pearl, she's not having it, and it's pretty funny, because, Pearl's saying to the sheriff, and she made a good point, stop right there, Sam. They're family. You don't sell family. And, you get before I say some words no good lady should say. And, yeah, that was funny. And, and I kind of like it because, as the sheriff rides off with Buck, because, he was trying to help. That's all. Because, yeah, he wasn't, intentionally doing that, the suggestion he had for Pearl. However, because Buck seemed to like this, that Patch of Heaven would be sold, and, Mrs. Calloway, yeah, because she clearly noticed the smile on Buck's face, well, Buck, I hope you're proud of this, and, Buck in response, as a matter of fact, I am, thanks for checking. Oh, Buck. Buck is kind of a jerk, throughout most of the film, but he does lighten up. He definitely does, towards the end of the film, and when he does help out, the three cows. Yeah. So that's when Maggie suggests that they should do something about it. They should go down to the local town and confront the sheriff about this. But how? They're cows. You think the sheriff's going to understand them? And take that piece of paper that the sheriff gave to Pearl, because, about what's going to happen to the farm. And Mrs. Calloway doesn't want to tag along, and so it's just Grace and Maggie at first, right as they're about to walk out of the entrance to the farm. But the three little chicks, they just give Mrs. Calloway this look, and Mrs. Calloway, like, don't give me that look and such, and she has to tag along, and because of the three chicks, when, the look that they gave her, and, yeah, Mrs. Calloway, of course, joining them, and Maggie asking her, well, what changed your mind? And the look on Mrs. Calloway's face, and I'd rather not talk about it. And the three little chicks, they're high-fiving. They got to her. So, and hey, don't underestimate those cute little chicks. So, and so they head off, and it was pretty funny because Grace singing, and a moment between Maggie and Grace talking about, Maggie and Mrs. Calloway, I should say, about Grace and how, well, apparently two vultures are circling. They think she's dying, and Maggie letting them know that she's not dying. So, false alarm, Roger Dodger, they fly off. And then we cut to Buck, where he's having a daydream taking on, bad guys. And, oh yeah, go back, kiss my fist, yeah. The moments where Buck is being tough and so on, pretty funny. And until he actually does take on bad guys later on in the film. And at the sheriff's office, because, yeah, we have Buck and the sheriff's dog, Rusty the dog, and he's the first one listed on the IMDb page of the cast of Home on the Range. And Rusty the dog being voiced by J.W. Bailey. Yeah, Rusty was a pretty good character, too. And the sheriff, we see him asleep, and then a telegram person, guy, whatever, because gives the sheriff some news that Rico is coming to town. Rico, who is the best dang bounty hunter in the West, and, the chance for Rico to help, capture Alameda Slim, because, yeah, Alameda Slim, as we see at the beginning of the film, he's wanted. So, yeah, and as I read in the description / the story. And so we see the three cows finally making it to town, and, oh boy, what happens next for the three of them? Because at first, they think that there's gun firing happening, even though there's no gun firing. It's just like, firecrackers going off, two cowboys spitting, targeting at, glass bottles, bubble gum, stamps, like, yeah, not gun firing, but to them, I mean, they're cows, so, and they think that they're going into the sheriff's office, but turns out to be a tavern, yeah, and actually, the lady that runs the tavern, actually, because that was let me see, because I know she's listed on here. I'm pretty sure this is probably, is this her? I want to say, because I think so. Yeah, it's Ann Richards. The late Ann Richards voices Annie, who runs the tavern. So, yeah, so chaos happens in the tavern. Get those cows off the stage! Just so much happening. And one of those three, girls on stage performing turned out to be a guy. I didn't get that joke until as I got older. Yeah, that's something that it's one of those things you don't get when you're little, but as you get older, you realize. And yeah, Disney, because they sometimes did stuff like that. Yeah, so anyways, so after what happens in the tavern, because so much happens, a lot of beating up and so on, then Buck and Rusty meet up with the three cows, and, well, they confront Buck about this by, bringing back that piece of paper the sheriff gave to Pearl, and, they got to see how much money they need to save the farm. And to Rusty, because he's sniffing the paper, according to Rusty, they need about $750 to save the farm. And how are they going to get that money? Well, we then see Rico make his entrance. And boy, what an entrance does Rico make? Because, the sun is blocked by the clouds, and the town people know what that is. They know that sign, and a couple of them, even Buck, saying Rico, and even like two flies that were flying around the sheriff while he was sleeping, they both say Rico, and thus Rico making his entrance. And yeah, that music that was playing, it was a pretty funny and cool entrance. Even like Rico grabbed one of the like little flies. Even like that's on the DVD cover of Home on the Range. Clearly, he grabs it and shh, and even the fly says sorry. So, and thus the sheriff gives Rico another job to collect another bounty, and that of course being Alameda Slim. And, well, the reward money for capturing Slim is $750, the same amount to, save the farm. And thus, that's when Maggie gets an idea that they can go and capture Alameda Slim and have that reward money save the farm. And it's so simple. And Mrs. Calloway, she's not really sure about it, but hey, it's for the best. It's gonna work. And then there's a moment where Rico says to the sheriff, because that voice that Rico has, and can't forget to mention, because Rico being voiced by Charles Dennis. Yeah, Charles Dennis is the voice of Rico, and and Rico, his dialogue, and when he says to the sheriff, I'm gonna need a new horse, and this is Buck's best opportunity to be Rico's new horse and to go, capture Slim, and because Buck's trying to get their attention, and Rico of course does notice Buck, and what about that horse, and the sheriff, talking about, Buck, and he's not sure, but Rico assures the sheriff that he'll do, and thus, Rico puts his saddle on Buck, and Buck just geeking out, hey, Rusty, I'm wearing Rico's saddle, I'm wearing Rico's saddle, and sometimes Buck just having a squeaky voice, because what Koba Gooding Jr. brought to the voice role of Buck was really good, so and funny. And back to the three cows, and Mrs. Calloway just she doesn't want to do this, and even like there's this one wagon that's making the destination that they're supposed to go to find and track Slim. And, Mrs. Calloway still having no part of it, will not follow this wagon, and Maggie, hitting, kind of nudging Mrs. Calloway. It'll be fun. And it kind of gets out of hand. Maggie takes it too far and causes Mrs. Calloway to have her hat fall out of off her head and land in like a mud puddle, and oh boy, because if you, knock her hat off, Mrs. Calloway's hat off her head, oh, you're screwed. Like I said, because Mrs. Calloway being a tough cookie, she's one cow you don't want to mess with. And boy, because, her, literally just hitting Maggie, and then it gets out of hand like a cow brawl, and then, also kind of it turning into a mud fight. Even Rusty is enjoying it. And it's pretty funny when, mud hits Rusty and a little bit hits on Rico's saddle on Buck. And, hey, watch the saddle. He flings it off with his tail. And the sheriff and Rico noticing this, and what in tarnation, says the sheriff, and basically ties all three of them up with rope and tie them up to that wagon, because that they're now gonna follow, and this Asian guy, and with subtitles, and thus making their destination, and the same goes for Rico and Buck, and thus, it's kind of like, a race to, find and capture Slim. And with Maggie, Grace, and Mrs. Calloway, because once again, Grace singing, but from the Asian's point of view, because all he's hearing is just a lot of mooing. So, and then at one point, and also I just love the reactions and the facial expressions from Maggie and Mrs. Calloway, because they just can't handle Grace's singing. That goes for Maggie, but Mrs. Calloway just I think she's kind of used to it by this point, but still just, I just love that, And then her singing is interrupted by a farm auction. And that's when, because, like, for Maggie, because, you know, this reminds her of, well, what happened to her original home. And, you know, telling the two cows, I should say, you know, what happened. And, well, it was because of Alameda Slim. Yeah, and, you know, it's sad for Maggie, of course. And, you know, we see the one guy who has bought the farm, and, well, and who is this buyer? You know, and him saying, pleasure doing business with you. So there's something about that buyer that we find out later on, and that voice. And then we see, like, cattle drive, like, all these cows, these bulls, I want to say. And, you know, because earlier in the film, because these three cowboys, they had these herd of cows follow them, and thus they were resting for the night. And these two bulls, I want to say, yeah, they're longhorns. They're longhorns. That's right. Two longhorns, Barry and Bob, being voiced by Mark Walton. Mark Walton, who, you know, he had worked at Disney and is in the business of animation. He is the voice of Barry and Bob, and he would also, later on, be the voice of Goosey Lucy in Chicken Little, and Rhino, yeah, in Bolt. Yeah, that's him. So nice to see that he got one of the main voice acting roles in Bolt. Yeah, and Barry and Bob, they were funny in this, and, you know, because Bob waking up Barry, you know, hey Barry, well, check it out. Ooh, dairy cows. And this gets the attention of all the other longhorns, and thus Barry and Bob are flirting and interacting with the three cows. It's funny. And Barry and Bob are offering to help them out. You know, maybe we could help you. And I just love it because both Maggie and Mrs. Calloway, they're not putting up with it. So, and even Maggie, like, saying to them, look, lover ball. So, and, well, of course, they tell them what's going on, and they're trying to look for the cattle rustler, Alameda Slim. And then, out of nowhere, well, disaster happens. The three cowboys and even the one Asian guy, you know, driving the wagon, they're both captured and tied up by the Willie brothers, because the Willie brothers are present. And, well, you know what that means with the Willie brothers being there. And the Willie brothers being voiced by Sam J. Levin. I think, yeah, I'm saying the last name right. You know what? The Willie brothers were really funny in this, and especially the voice performance that Sam J gave to the Willie brothers. And we don't really know their names except for one, because later on in the film, Slim does say one of the Willie brothers' actual name, you know, so yeah, and thus Alameda Slim makes his entrance, him and his buffalo, Junior, and Alameda Slim being voiced by the one and only Randy Quaid, aka Cousin Eddie. Yeah, nice to see him voice a Disney villain, and, you know, for that matter, because it's very fitting that, you know, he voices a Disney villain that's, you know, from the Wild Wild West, because Randy Quaid's definitely got that perfect voice, you know, voicing a cowboy. Not to mention, after Home on the Range, he would do something else that has to do with, you know, cowboys and such in the Playhouse Disney show Stanley. If you all remember Stanley's Dinosaur Roundup, he was the voice of Rockin' Rory. Yeah, so I didn't even know that was him. I mean, the voice, the voice sounded familiar, but for some reason, I don't think he was credited, nor is he credited on the IMDb page of Stanley's Dinosaur Roundup. I'm just saying, unless that was changed, and he is listed in there, I don't know, but I'm just saying. Yeah, so the introduction of Slim and Maggie, because, yeah, for her, because, you know, she just immediately just going straight for Slim, charging at him. It's payback time. Cover me. With what? Asks Grace. That was funny. And thus we get our next song number. It starts off with, regular talking from Slim. Now listen up. They're crooks, in these parts who claim to be the best. And yeah, even that's in the soundtrack. That's nice. Yeah, so it starts off with regular talking and, dialogue from Slim, and thus he starts to sing, which being Yodeli-Di-Lo, the yodeling song. Definitely one of the top best songs in this film, don't you think? And besides, it is a Disney villain song, so yeah. Randy Quaid, he's got a good singing voice, although, because he didn't do the yodeling parts. They were done by a couple of yodeling singers. Yeah, but I don't know, maybe, didn't Randy Quaid do a little bit of yodeling? Maybe, but, still. And honestly, because the yodeling from some of the yodeling performers seemed to match pretty well with, Randy Quaid and, with him singing as Slim. And, with his yodeling, well, because Slim found a way for his yodeling to hypnotize cows. And, yeah, causing the Longhorns to be hypnotized, and also that goes for Maggie and Mrs. Calloway. However, this does not affect Grace. Apparently, I guess she's immune to it, I guess. But yeah, at least, it's nice that only one cow is not hypnotized from this. And yeah, because with the yodeling song, because it's very colorful, because bright colors, flashing and such, even on the Longhorns and Maggie and Mrs. Calloway, and the Willie brothers singing too, and then towards the end of the song, because, well, Slim luring the Longhorns to, well, his hideout, because, once again, he's capturing the herd, and almost was going to capture Mrs. Calloway and Maggie up until Grace, who was still tied up to that rope on that wagon, well, because, she was trying to get Maggie and Mrs. Calloway to snap out of it, and up top like a rock hill or something, it kind of, the wagon takes control of itself, and at least, Grace managed to, get Mrs. Calloway and Maggie out of there. So, and we do see the three cowboys of that herd trying to get to Slim, and we see Rico and Buck trying to get to Slim, but, right towards the end of the song, he launches his spurs at a giant, rock, and causing it to fall and blocking the path, and them trying to get to Slim. Yeah. And thus, well, the wagon crashes into Rico and Buck, and and the three cowboys meeting up with Rico and telling them what happened and such, and Maggie, confronting Grace and Mrs. Calloway, what part did I tell you, to cover me? Didn't we understand? And Buck, he's upset about this, and he kind of goes on a rampage and, showing off his fighting skills for the three cows, and for Rico, because he's noticing this, and he thinks that, well, Buck is not doing so well towards cows, and thus he uses a different horse, one of the three cowboys' horse. It's a gray horse, and Buck, he can't believe what he just saw, because Rico rode off with a different horse. So, I think, because Rico's saddle was off of Buck, and thus the saddle was placed on top of that new horse that Rico rode on. And thus, the three cows proceeding on, trying to find Slim. But, it's nice that for Grace, she did offer Buck an invite for him to join them to capture Slim. But Buck, he's not having it. Not one single bit. Because he wants to capture Slim himself when he realizes, because he can, and to make Rico proud. Even when those three cowboys were trying to handle Buck and to return him to the sheriff's office, but of course Buck escapes. I just love that, because again, the facial expressions and the voice performance that Cuba Gooding Jr. brought to Buck, really good, and just, hi! and just like, ba 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 ba. I could go on. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know, because like Buck could probably be one of the fan favorites of the movie. I don't know. I mean, you guys can let me know on that, and if any of you enjoyed the character of Buck. Very hyperactive horse, I should say, and his, him wanting to take on Slim. But anyways, again, so the three cows proceeding on, and then we come to Alameda Slim and the Willie brothers. Alameda Slim's hideout, it's inside this canyon, and because we see all of the group of longhorns, this big herd that Slim has captured, and his plans, what to do for the herd. But also, we find out that Slim has been pretending to be a guy buying farm properties, that are farms that are, have been auctioned and such. And just like, because that one farm auction that we saw early on, that Maggie, Grace, and Mrs. Calloway were passing by, that was Slim. That was Slim buying it, and him saying, "Pleasure doing business with you." Yeah, that was him, and with that disguise, all dressed in blue and with glasses, yeah. And by putting on that disguise, just putting on the glasses, the Willie brothers think that it's someone else. And a couple of times where they're like, who are you? What do you do with our Uncle Slim? It's funny, and just Slim telling them it's me, hello. It's funny. And yeah, that's the thing, because Alameda Slim is the uncle to the Willie brothers, yeah. But he can be kind of an abusive uncle to them. At least, in this case, since it's Disney, in a humorous way. And here's the thing, because, villains and their sidekicks, there can be some that have really good, funny chemistries. I think, yeah, because Slim and the Willie brothers being one of them, but they're not quite up there like, say, Yzma, Kronk, Captain Hook, and Mr. Smee, and most notably, Prince John and Sir Hiss. Definitely the two of them, yeah. So definitely it's the villains from Robin Hood, Peter Pan, and The Emperor's New Groove that are some of the top best villains and sidekicks that have good, funny chemistries. And also, can't forget to mention Jafar and Iago. Them too, definitely them as well. And I think Scar and the Hyenas, Shenzi, Bonsai, and Ed, I think they're there too, I think. So, yeah, might as well mention them too. But, yeah, so, Slim, I guess, he gives, a little backstory on him and how, what he used to do back in the day, and how, people didn't appreciate his talent. And the Willie brothers, they trigger him, because they say to him, maybe they just didn't like your singing. And him just, my singing? Birds sing, saloon gals sing. I yodel, and yodeling is an art. And he just trying to hit them and such with that burning staff, to burn on that map that he has, of all the farms that he's bought that were on auction. And one of the other Willies, because the three of them, and you could tell because which one is which, and they're not wearing the same thing. One is wearing blue, one is wearing red, and the other, I think, a greenish color, or I think yellow-green. I think it's yellow, yeah, because the one wearing yellow and who's playing the banjo sitting on a couch, trying to assure Slim, but yeah, not doing so good either. And by trying to, hit it at him and he's ducking, notices one spot on the map that, because Slim never noticed, and that being Patch of Heaven. And it's in the shape of, the Willie brothers' head. It's funny. And Slim just telling him, am I correct to consume that, whenever we've brought back, a herd of cattle and such, you've managed to sit in the exact same spot from locking that piece of property from my view, and so on. And the one Willie brother is saying, this is my comfy place. What? I'm just grabbing him by the neck. And than the other Willie brothers telling him, it's called Patch of Heaven, Uncle Slim. Goes on auction Thursday morning. Yeah, because by Thursday, because that's when the auction is going to happen, on Thursday morning. And, Slim, he's gonna buy it. And even though the Willie brothers tell him that it's just a small piece of dirt property, however they say it, and, Slim, it doesn't matter to him. So, thus he's gonna plan on buying Patch of Heaven, and that definitely is the best opportunity for the three cows. That especially goes for Mrs. Calloway and Grace, getting their names mixed up. Try saying their names maybe 10 times fast, or, in different order, I'm just saying. And then we come back to Patch of Heaven, the sheriff being present, and, hammering that sign where, it's going to be auctioned off. And you can see the look on the sheriff's face that he regrets doing it, but he doesn't want to do it, but he has no choice. And since he's the sheriff, he has to oblige by the rules from the town, and from the bank. Because he feels so bad, and he feels so sorry for Pearl. And we even see the farm animals, they're going to be auctioned off too. And, Ollie the pig, he's assuring the farm animals, and despite Jeb saying some things that trigger the chickens, Ollie assuring them that they'll be back and so on, and they'll do it. And thus, because, as long as the three cows are making progress. And thus, we come back to the three cows. They're following a trail, supposedly, that will lead to Alameda Slim and where he's hiding. And I think, it turns out that those tracks are from Buck, because they're right on his tail. He can hear them, and, no, it can't be. And, oh boy, what Buck does next is kind of a dick move, because he starts running around fast in different, areas, and, because he left a huge pile of tracks, and what now? And Mrs. Calloway can tell right there and then that, this has Buck written all over it. And then we come to an infamous moment, I guess you could say, I were to assume, but, because what happens, you think, how much worse can it get? Because, after what Buck left on the ground with so many tracks, a flash flood, because, we get the flash flood sequence, and, because of the rain, it causes the tracks to, disappear, and, Maggie, she's not giving up, but even though, because, Mrs. Calloway tells them, get to high ground, Maggie, she's not doing so, she's not giving up, and by this point, there would be no tracks left, in the rain, and because of how much the water has risen because of the flash flood. And, because we see a big pile of water coming, and, because, it kind of knocks out Maggie, I want to say. She almost drowns, but she is saved, of course. And thus, they get to high ground under, a rock, I want to say, And Mrs. Calloway, by this point, she's done and confronts Maggie, and even just confronting her about, when she first arrived to Patch of Heaven. So it seems like that's it, because they're going home and they're not going to capture Slim. And we do get a sad moment there, and especially we get our next song number, which being Will the Sun Ever Shine Again, sung by Bonnie Raitt, if I think I'm saying her last name right. A really good country singer. Not to mention, she had involvement in a previous Disney film, which being live action, that being The Country Bears. It's true, and, I just wanted to mention it. And fun fact about the song, Will the Sun Ever Shine Again, according to Alan Menken, the song got written very shortly after the 9/11 attacks. Definitely, because this song says a lot, especially after 9/11. And Alan Menken then said that, somehow it managed to, fit in this movie about three cows. And I think it did, because, hey, of what was going on and how, this song, it definitely feels like a song that, is a country song, a Western song. You get what I'm saying. And it fits very well in Home on the Range, and we see, because what's going on in Patch of Heaven, Pearl is packing up because, well, tomorrow is going to happen, because with the auction and, the 3 cows, they still haven't returned, and we even see the sheriff being informed by the 3 cowboys that, unfortunately, his horse Buck ran away and hasn't returned, and not only is the sheriff missing Buck, even Rusty even misses Buck, even though, because, Buck kind of got out of hand for Rusty, Rusty still loved Buck, yeah. As family, of course. And even, these, track marks that were left, Rusty's paw prints and Buck's hooves, yeah, because them being washed away by the rain. And we see Buck, because he's kind of down at one point, but then when looking at the wanted poster of Slim, that's when he's not giving up. He's still gonna go after Slim, whatever it takes. Even, he passes by the 3 cows. And so after that sad song number, cut to next morning, and, well, still, it seems like they're gonna go their ways. Mrs. Calloway and Grace, I almost said Maggie, they're gonna return to Patch of Heaven, while Maggie, well, I guess, she's still gonna go after Slim. But that's when someone shows up and, I guess, made them breakfast, I want to say, and according to Grace, he's their very own wise man. And I'd say, yeah, because he is. And that, of course, being this guy. Yeah, this rabbit, I should say. Lucky Jack. Lucky Jack, once again, shows up. And, yeah, because when we saw him at the beginning of the film, and then we see him later on, and, he joins the 3 cows. And he gives a little backstory about him, because he used to reside, and along with his fellow jackrabbits, at a place called Echo Mine, because jackrabbits, according to Lucky Jack, they lived in Echo Mine from generation to generation, and at some point, some cattle rustler came in and basically cleared out Echo Mine, all the jackrabbits that were living there, and he basically took Echo Mine as his own, turning it as his own hiding place. And who would that cattle rustler be that just so happens to be in Echo Mine and just basically took Echo Mine as his own? Well, that being Slim. So Lucky Jack has a score to settle with Slim. So, yeah, there you go. So now, of course, the 3 cows and Lucky Jack, they have one thing in common. But, they don't know it yet, because they don't realize that Slim is going to buy Patch of Heaven until Slim mentions it later on. So, yeah, Maggie still having a score to settle with Slim, and Grace even worries for Maggie that it'll be too dangerous to take Slim all by herself, but no, because she now has Lucky Jack, but that's not all that she has, because Grace is determined that, well, her and Mrs. Calloway are still going to tag along and help Maggie, along with Lucky Jack, to take on Slim, and still to save the farm and to collect that reward money. And, well, Mrs. Calloway, by this point, she has no choice, and so they proceed on. And Lucky Jack does know the way to Echo Mine, and I just love, because some of the dialogue that Lucky Jack gives, ha! Bovine bounty hunters! Now I've seen everything! Let's get moving, ladies, to Echo Mine, etc. And we get another rendition of You Ain't Home on the Range, different lyrics, and we see Buck still on the way to, get Slim. And how did he know where Slim is? Because we do see him a little bit later at Echo Mine, but, well, Buck just found out, I guess. So anyways, and then, yeah, we come back to Echo Mine, I should say, and once again, getting Slim and the Willy brothers, and Slim just trying to assure and tell the Willy brothers that it's him by, because of the disguise, okay, boys, let's go through this one last time. Who am I? Uncle Slim? Correct. Now, I put on my hat. Well, they seem okay. the Willy brothers, they have no reaction to when he puts on the hat. And when he puts on the glasses, that's when they freak out. Who are you? Where's Uncle Slim? And Slim's delivery of dialogue, oh, it's still me! And just him rampaging at his nephews up until someone shows up to collect the herd that Slim has collected. We get the introduction, and as Slim says, oh, the ever-punctual Mr. Weasley. That's how he says his name, but his actual name is Wesley. And yeah, because this train coming in and, to collect the herd, and we see Wesley, who is this little guy who is all dressed in purple, and Wesley being voiced by another voice cast member of Monsters Incorporated, Randall Boggs himself, Steve Buscemi. Yeah, so Home on the Range having two voice cast members from Monsters Incorporated, Jennifer Tilly and Steve Buscemi. And yeah, because it's Steve Buscemi, because he's Steve Buscemi. He's good in anything, especially when doing voice acting. And even though Steve Buscemi doesn't have a big part in Home on the Range, he's still good. And, clearly, because when you look at Wesley, he clearly resembles Steve Buscemi. If I remember correctly, because maybe this came from the directors, or maybe I read this, either one. Steve Buscemi, I think, he made a comment about, how Wesley resembles him. I think he was flattered by it, but I think, still said something that was funny. That's the best I can remember, but, Oh, and also, more on the deleted scenes, because one thing about Lucky Jack is his storyline would have been completely different if they had gone what was originally, what it originally was supposed to be, because he was, he would have no score to settle with Slim. And what was the point of him joining the Cows if he had no score to settle with Slim? But it's a good thing that they did change it, and how in the final film he does have a score to settle with Slim, and he and the Cows, they do share one thing in common, to get Slim, because Slim taking over Echo Mine and, getting rid of all the jackrabbits that used to live in Echo Mine. There was also supposed to be a coyote chase, which got even more funny, because not just coyotes, but a bear, two cougars, I want to say, mountain lions, whatever, and bats, that was funny, on a stage wagon, because that's where Lucky Jack resided at, this, stagecoach, because he was a part of this circus, I want to say, I don't know. And up to Echo Mine, originally, they were considering this, but everybody thought that they were crazy with this idea of Slim wanting to be president. If you know about that, it is hilarious, but you know what? It seemed to... what we got in the final film, it seemed to have worked fine without having that be in the film. The idea of Slim becoming president. So, but it was still a funny thing, and that one deleted scene, with him wanting to become president, it was pretty funny. And with the voice performance of, Randy Quaid and Sam J. Levin, as well as Jennifer Tilly and Charles Hayde, as Lucky Jack. But anyways, so eventually the three cows finally make their way to Echo Mine, and because Lucky Jack did it, they made their destination, and Lucky Jack guiding them how to get to Echo Mine, and that one bit of dialogue that Lucky Jack says, well, seeing is believing. Yes, it is. And turns out that they were not the first to show up at Echo Mine. Buck beat to them. And unfortunately, Buck, he didn't quite make it into Echo Mine, and that entrance, leading to Slim, because it's being blocked by Slim's Buffalo, Junior, being voiced by the late Lance Legault. I think I'm saying the last name right, And Junior, he was a pretty good and funny character in this, and how this is a buffalo you don't want to mess with. And, just telling Buck, cows only. And yeah, he's not letting Buck get past him, but he will let the 3 cows, go by, because, well, they're cows. Even, Lucky Jack accompanying and, being with the 3 cows. And it was pretty funny, because when it turns to Mrs. Calloway, and Junior saying to Mrs. Calloway, "Nice hat, ma'am," and Mrs. Calloway being flattered and, cheeky devil, because she seems to like Junior, so, and thus making it in, and still, Junior blocking any attempt on Buck getting in, and Buck, even wondering, like, what about the rabbit? And Junior telling him, well, obviously he was with the cows. And Buck then saying to Junior, "I'm with the cows too, yeah, hey, tell them that you know me and that I'm with you, and, it's Buck," and so on. And, well, Maggie, well, obviously she's not going to let Buck join them, so, yeah. Oh, Buck. No, it doesn't ring a bell. So poor Buck, well, he had it coming to him, so, being, a jerk at first, and even when, Junior kind of like, throws Buck into the air, kind of, just to back off a little, and Junior saying up close, "Don't make me hurt you." And yeah, again, you don't want to mess with a buffalo like Junior. So, and Buck does see that Rico is up top Echo Mind, and once again saying, "Rico." And, well, Buck, supposedly he's leaving, but he's not giving up. He, goes to another part of Echo Mine and meets up with the horse that Rico rode on to Echo Mine. And how did Rico know where Slim would be? Well, I guess he must have known, so anyways. Or actually, because about that. Yeah, because something about Rico we don't realize until a little bit later on. But anyways, so coming back to the 3 cows and Lucky Jack, because, well, what is the plan, as Lucky Jack asks? Well, because they see like a cart and a frying pan and a piece of rope, and they can do something with those 3 things. And, well, because any risk of Mrs. Calloway and Maggie being hypnotized by Slim's yodeling, well, Grace has a suggestion, like pulling off some of Lucky Jack's, rabbit tail fluff. And it's pretty funny because, Grace, saying to Lucky Jack, "Sorry for this." And, "For what, Missy?" Pulling off the fluff from his tail, and Lucky Jack, saying, "Now you watch there, toots." And stuffing that in Mrs. Calloway's ears, and I think Maggie too, even though we don't see it. And we also see, but actually before that, because I was almost about to talk about what happens with Slim, Wesley, but before that, with Buck, because again, he meets up with the one horse that, that Rico rode on, and that horse, let me see, like, clearly, because he would have a name, right? Okay, yeah. Yeah, the horse's name is Patrick, and Patrick being voiced by Patrick Warburton. Yeah, Patrick Warburton, because hey, he's Patrick Warburton. He's good in anything, even if he has like a cameo voice or something, So Patrick Warburton voicing the horse named Patrick that Rico rode on to Echo Mine, and Buck playing a trick on Patrick, because what Rico is gonna do, something to do with horsewhip, and Patrick starts to, feel terrified by it, and, "What should I do?" And, Buck telling him to run, run, get out of here, and Patrick saying, "Thanks, buddy, I owe you one." And yeah, so Patrick rides off, and little did Buck realize that behind him was Junior, because Buck saying, he must be taking lessons from that stupid lesson from that buffalo, however Buck said it, and Junior being right behind him, and just blowing kind of like steam on Buck, and Buck going, "Oh no," and what happens next. But yeah, but coming to Slim, the Willie brothers and Wesley, because, well, loading up the Longhorns, the herd, to the train cars, Slim is counting out the money that was given to him by Wesley, and while he's counting his money, so are the Willie brothers counting out the longhorns, the herds slash cows being loaded up to the cars. 4,000, blah blah blah, and Slim counting his money. Just how can you just concentrate on that? And Slim, because he's like, "Oh, can't you morons count to yourselves?" And thus, the three cows and Lucky Jack, they make their plan to, lure Slim into their trap. And because, okay, once the herd is all loaded up to the train cars, and how many are in the cars, how many they got now, 4,900 something, and it's not quite there yet, because Slim told Wesley how many herd of cattle would be in the train cars, and, Slim saying, Gil must have just miscounted, that's all. And, yeah, that was the name of one of the Willie brothers, Gil. Yeah, so did the other two Willie brothers ever had names? Were they revealed? I mean, if you know this, you can let me know, and, well, I mean, I could look it up too. I'm just saying. Then they hear mooing, and thus it's Grace, and thus Slim doing his yodeling, and, the one Willie brother saying to Wesley, "You're gonna like this, yodeling's an art." And Slim, of course, doing his yodeling, but of course this doesn't affect Grace. Of course not. And Slim confused, so are the Willie brothers, and even Mrs. Calloway, walking by, and, well, she's not being affected by it, because being stuffed up with, with her, the fluffy fur from Lucky Jack's tail being covering her ears. Yeah. And Wesley just having a laugh, and the Willie brothers commenting, maybe she wasn't an art lover, Philistine, shut up, and, no cow can't resist from my yodeling and such. And he gets up close to Mrs. Calloway and Grace doing his yodeling. They're pretending to be hypnotized, and, well, behind Slim, is Maggie with the cart, and the two of the Willie brothers, gotta slow down, alerting their uncle, "Watch your back, Uncle Slim!" And, well, Slim was quick enough to stop the cart, "Where do you think you're going?" And, well, and still, they managed to, for a moment, capture Slim, and by, charging their horns to Slim's butt, and lands in the cart, and tying him up, his shoes and hands, and Lucky Jack hitting him with a frying pan, and he's knocked out, and, well, two of the Willie brothers, the one wearing yellow and blue, they chase after them, while the one with red, stays behind and helping out Wesley with the train. And Wesley called that one Willie brother in red, Casey Jones. Okay, so if that is his first name, Casey, I don't know. I'm not sure if that was a nod to Casey Jr. Probably not. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But yeah, so yeah, we get that. I think it's an infamous scene right here. We get a chase sequence, because it just changes, back and forth, because the cows and Lucky Jack making their escape, but they ram right into Buck, and now he's on the cart, and thus, Junior, of course, chasing after Buck, still is, and so are the cows and the Willie brothers, and it's pretty funny, and Buck realizing that, Slim is in the cart, and, he got Slim. I got Slim! Rico's gonna be so proud of me! And it was funny, because all of them passing by and Wesley seeing this, and his comment after seeing that, I gave up clown college for this? That's pretty funny. And still, because with the chase continuing, and up to when, Buck, because Junior being right up on his tail, and Buck getting in this elevator, I want to say, those kind of elevators and mining tunnels, etc. And goes up, and the three cows and Lucky Jack, they accidentally bump into Junior. He goes falling and doing the goofy holler, because there have been a couple of Disney films where, they did the goofy holler. I guess, their own version of the Wilhelm scream in Disney films. However, like, when it came to Enchanted, the movie would have the goofy holler, but also the Wilhelm scream, both at the same time. Because when, the evil queen, like, she transforms into the dragon and it causes a couple of people to go flying. Yeah, that. Okay, but back to Home on the Range, because the three cows and Lucky Jack, they get in an elevator as well. They go up too. The Willard brothers were almost up, getting to them. Dang, says one of them, and they go to another place, to catch up with them. Well, and they actually get one of those wagons, you pull the lever and such. I know there's a specific name to that, but, Buck accidentally passed by Rico. That was Rico, going back to Rico, making a good impression on Rico, that, showing him what he brought to Rico. And Rico, saying, "What in blue blazes?" And sure enough, the three cows and Lucky Jack, they get the wagon, the cart, I should say. They get it once again, and Buck, trying to get the cart back. Junior popping up and, "I'll knock you to the next Tuesday or whatever, come back here." Almost about to, kick Buck's butt, "You're going down." Slim waking up at one point, and he could see Junior and, calling for Junior to help him. And once again, Lucky Jack knocking Slim out. The Willie brothers on their tail once again. And for Rico and Buck, well, Rico puts his saddle back on Buck. Buck getting emotional, but, no time to waste, because, chasing after Slim, because, the three cows and Lucky Jack having Slim once again. And Lucky Jack notices, because where they're heading, because they kind of, like, go down a big drop, and Lucky Jack's screaming. And the Willie brothers, they bump into the three cows and Lucky Jack, but Lucky Jack quick enough to hit them with a pan. It causes one of the Willie brothers to pull down a lever, causing the cart to stop and, hitting the brake. And it causes some sparks they end up in this room full of dynamite, and the dynamite is about to go off, and everybody is in the room. They get out, a big explosion, and they're all outside now. And now, the three cows and Lucky Jack on their tail, Buck, Rico, Junior, and the two Willie brothers. And Lucky Jack, alerting the three cows, "Ladies, we got company!" And finally, because, this chase comes to an end when the train is about to hit them, and Slim waking up, seeing that, and Wesley telling the one Willie brother, "Stop, hit the brake!" And of course there is a crash, and it does come to an end finally. Just some of them, like, are, on the train. Like, Rico was up top the train, the three cows are right in front of the train, and Lucky Jack opened a hatch, up front of the train, and he was knocked out by a horse hoof. And Slim, because, he's just about had enough, and, tying up the three cows to rope and, putting them on one of the train cars. Slim turning to Mr. Weasley, as he calls him, getting his name wrong once again, asking for his money, and Wesley saying, "I was just holding it for you, Slim, sure you were." And Slim introducing Mr. Wesley to the best, I think he says, bounty hunter, and, calling him a partner, Rico. Yeah, because it turns out, and what a twist, Rico is working alongside with Slim, and Rico saying, "You're too kind, boss." And Buck, he is just shocked by what he's hearing, because, he was because he looked up to Rico, he was a fan of Rico, and to find out that Rico is a bad guy, and so on, and Buck saying, "No, it can't be." That was like a repeat dialogue which was first heard early on in the film, because when I mentioned that Buck, he heard the three cows were right behind him, and when he did all those tracks, so that has happened before in not every single animated film, in this case Disney, but sometimes they would reuse one or two lines that were said early on in the film, So just like say how for Pixar, they sometimes, most of the time used, they reused some screams from like say, the Toy Story characters, Monsters Inc., most notably Mike Wazowski. I did notice that when it came to Monsters University, and you would have too, okay? Because you would recognize. So, you know. Anyways, so, yeah, and of course Buck he just can't believe it that he, all this time, because he looked up and he was, you know, he was ridden on by Rico, you know? And even like the cows, they kind of give Buck this look like, well, what are you gonna do now? Like, you still gonna, you know, be with Rico and such? Like, you know, and thus Slim, you know, he calls in Junior, he puts on his disguise, and he lets out and mentions that, you know, something about Patch of Heaven. There's a little patch of heaven on the auction, however he says it. And of course, the cows know that, well, he's gonna buy their farm, and thus Rico riding off on Junior, while Rico and Buck, I guess like they were gonna meet up with Wesley and the Willy brothers, like where the train was going to. So, you know, and Buck, well, he's deciding on what he's gonna do, like looking back at the train and such. And this was Buck's moment where, you know what, he became a pretty better horse, and, you know, a pretty good friend, a much better friend to the cows. Thus, he, you know, rides back, and, you know, Rico just like, steady horse, and yeah, and even Rico lost his hat when Buck ran back to the train, and Buck first knocking out Wesley. Yeah, Wesley's knocked out completely. And then, of course, you know, throwing Rico off him, and he then takes on the Willy brothers. And, yeah, this was Buck's moment, actually taking on and punching the bad guys, and the three cows trying to find a way to get out of the train car that they're in, and they were shocked to see what Buck was doing, and Grace was wondering, what if this is some kind of trick? And Mrs. Calloway, she knows that it's no trick, you know, oh, this isn't a trick, it's a miracle! So, yeah, she knew. And she realized, of course. So, you know, they're trying to get out, but, you know, but nothing's working when they're trying to slam, you know, on the doors. But Maggie has another idea. By taking Mrs. Calloway's hat, throwing it out, and, you know, okay, Calloway, fetch. And once again, Mrs. Calloway is in complete rage, and that's when, yeah, she broke the doors to the train car, and thus they join in the fight. Buck, one by one, knocking out each of the Willy brothers. We even get a glimpse of one of the Willy brothers' eyes. We do, because, like, you know, throughout the film, because their eyes were covered by their hair, but we did see a glimpse of one of their eyes. So, and Lucky Jack, he did finish off the one last Willy brother by throwing, well, the horse hoof, and the cows, they were like punching and kicking Rico up until, well, because Mrs. Calloway landed on top of Rico, and the last dialogue that Rico gives, you know, Mother of Mercy, is this the end of Rico? Pretty much, because he's knocked out completely too. So, he even lost a couple of teeth. And, well, because what are they going to do now? Well, Mrs. Calloway gives a speech to the cows on what they can do, and by using the train goes directly past Patch of Heaven and tells them that, you know, how are they going to drive it and capture Slim, you know, the same way that we did before, you know, we caught Slim once, and we shall do it again. Who's with me? And thus, they get the train started up. They get started up, as they say. They free the herd, and they throw Wesley, Rico, and the Willy brothers in one car, and they detach from the train cars. And we once again see Barry and Bob. They want to help and join in, and, you know, maybe we could help you, but they get knocked out by this train pole, I want to say. Yeah, just by a pole, yeah. And Grace, you know, being flattered, you know, bye, come and see us sometime. And Mrs. Calloway just saying, Grace! Yeah. And yeah, so they proceed on. The cows, Lucky Jack, and Buck, he finally joins them. And they're almost about to run straight to another train, which being the Morning Express, according to Maggie. However, Lucky Jack notices that there's a switch up ahead, and thus Lucky Jack and Buck, they ride to switch to, change the points, to the tracks. And it doesn't work at first because it kind of breaks off, and Buck notices, Lucky Jack's peg leg, and by doing so, changing the points, and they just about barely hit the Morning Express, and the train driver, going, "Roadhogs!" And, Lucky Jack is stuck, and Buck telling them, "See you back at the farm, girls," and Lucky Jack, one catchphrase that Lucky Jack says sometimes, "This happens all the time." So, how many things happens for Lucky Jack? But anyways. And we see at the dairy farm, Patch of Heaven, the auction is happening. And, the one who bought the farm, because as of now, it's been sold to, the guy who really is Alameda Slim, him in disguise, and once again saying, "Pleasure doing business with you." And, poor Pearl, because, she's all packed up and, her leaving. Up until when Mrs. Calloway, Maggie, and Grace in the train, they are making their way to Patch of Heaven, and, Mrs. Calloway, wanting to stop the train, and Maggie telling Mrs. Calloway that there's no time for that. And, basically, because they're just going to crash right into Patch of Heaven, and Mrs. Calloway saying, "This is going to be messy," clearly. And thus, everybody's hearing, rumbling, shaking, and thus they see the train behind the sheriff, because the sheriff was doing the chicks, 5 cents for these chicks, and it was pretty funny. Pearl coming in, snatching the chicks, and, getting the sheriff out of the way, and thus the train crashing in, and Slim in disguise saying, "What the idea of crashing your train on my property?" And he sees that it's the 3 cows. "It can't be." And a standoff, and, as the 3 cows charge at Slim, he pulls out a gun. However, the farm animals, they join in and they take on Slim. A nice moment between Jeb and the 3 pigs, and Jeb saying to the pigs, "Piggies, it's time to go wild berserk," however he said it. And thus, one by one, the farm animals just pecking and, attacking Slim, and up until, because when he falls into, the chicken coop, I want to say, where the chickens are, and, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." They peck him, and then they just, send him flying, because, with a lever, and Maggie and Grace, they hit him with their hooves, and he lands in the part of the train, because, where, the whistle blows, and Mrs. Calloway pulling it, and revealing Slim. So everybody sees that it's Slim, and Slim saying, "You think you won? It ain't over until the fat man sings." Him yodeling one last time, and, of course, Maggie was about to throw her cowbell directly at Slim, obviously in his mouth, but because she got hypnotized, because, she missed her shot. However, Grace stepping in, hitting the bell straight into Slim's mouth, and thus Slim is defeated and captured / arrested once and for all. And because of that, the reward money, and clearly because the sheriff knew this, that, because of what just happened, and with the reward money, thus Pearl's farm is officially saved, and nice to see. And then Maggie and Grace, I'm sorry, again, getting their names mixed up, Mrs. Calloway and Grace, they notice that Maggie is just gone. And that's the thing, because almost forgot to mention, because Maggie made a deal with Mrs. Calloway early on in the film that if they capture Slim, after they capture Slim, then she would walk out of Patch of Heaven and never step foot again. So it seems like that she did so, but nah, she didn't. She just kind of stepped outside to get a to get a bite to eat. So, and once again, burping in Mrs. Calloway's face and going, ah, that was good. And thus, well, Maggie, she's not going anywhere. And thus being officially being a part of the Patch of Heaven family. Yeah, Mrs. Calloway and Maggie, they seem to be on good terms now. Good thing. And Buck and Lucky Jack finally showing up, and it was funny because Buck's saying, hey girls, got milk? You know, Buck, just kidding. So, and the epilogue, everybody in for a group photo, and obviously because for the newspaper of what happened and because of Alameda Slim's arrest, and Lucky Jack reading the paper, and Jeb ate a bit of the paper, and Lucky Jack just going on over Jeb, you know, dagnabbit Jeb, how many times I gotta tell you to quit eating, and so on. And I guess apparently Lucky Jack moved in with Jeb, and yeah, putting them together because, yeah, they seem to be a perfect, you know, match of friends and such, you know. And even Audrey saying that, you know, it's so nice that Jeb found a friend, and yeah. And then we see some of the farm animals, they received blue ribbons, and so did the cows. And then we see Bob and Barry show up, and also Junior. They have a bit of dialogue, and even Junior's dialogue is funny, you know, and the Joker is wild. Oh, yeah. So they become a part of the Patch of Heaven family, and a little dance between each of them. Bob and Barry dancing with Maggie and Grace, and Junior dancing with Mrs. Calloway, obviously. So, yeah. And we get Patch of Heaven, the song Patch of Heaven, one last time. And yeah, because again, Maggie officially being a part of the Patch of Heaven family, and even Mrs. Calloway giving her hat to Maggie. Even like, because Maggie said something about that, you know, if you let me wear the hat. So yeah, and thus she finally did. And even the sheriff is there, you know, both him and Pearl are dancing, everybody's dancing, and then we see one little chicklet, you know, cock-a-doodle-doo, and that's how the movie ends. And the end credits were pretty good. Yeah, and seeing the Home on the Range characters in a different style, and just like how they look in on the DVD, because you know, if you had the DVD, there would always be a different opening intro right before the menu shows up. Does anybody remember that? And also with that that short film, you know, Dairy Tales from Mrs. Calloway, that, and some of the games that are on the DVD, how they look. So yeah, and we get two more songs that are played during the end credits. We have Wherever the Trail May Lead, sung by Tim McGraw, and we have Anytime You Need a Friend. And for the end credits, the song Anytime You Need a Friend was sung by, yeah, if I'm saying the name right, the Bayou Sisters, maybe? I mean, you can let me know if I'm saying it right. But yeah, so for the end credits in the film, it's the sisters singing the song. And, you know, because some of those Disney animated feature films in the early 2000s, you know, a song played during the credits sung by, like, a pop star band, you know? I mean, like, I'm not sure on the Disney films that came out in the 90s. Like, I don't think it wasn't, not like pop-styled singing, like, you know, because, like, because voice artists, right? Because, you know, Celine Dion, Elton John, like, you know, when Celine Dion did Beauty and the Beast and Elton John did The Lion King, you know, if you get what I'm saying, yeah. But it's not that I'm complaining. I mean, you know, the songs in the Disney animated films in the early 2000s sung by pop singers and such, okay, I guess, you know, not that I hate them or anything. However, in the soundtrack of Home on the Range, it's Alan Menken singing the song Anytime You Need a Friend. And, well, of course, you know, Alan Menken, he's a good singer, and, yeah, he sings it pretty good. And I'm not sure, like, maybe the pop version of Anytime You Need a Friend is probably on the Home on the Range soundtrack. I'll have to go back and look, but there's also a music video of that, so just thought I'd mention that. Also, I never knew this until later on, you know, when watching the credits fully up to the end, where we do hear a bit of, like, piano music playing, like, you know, in a Western bar, tavern, you know, and, like, Boots walking in and such, yeah, because I thought I'd point that out, because I never knew about that until very later on. So, I just thought I'd point that out, and, you know, just saying. And if you guys noticed that too, if you watched the movie all the way to the end when the credits finished. Disney's Home on the Range. I can't say it's good, like it's a masterpiece and such. No. I mean, all I can say, and, you know, it's good and decent. It's not god-awful, but hey, like I said, it can be fun to watch. It's, you know, one of those Disney animated feature films that could be fun to watch. And especially because, you know, this one, you know, little kids, clearly, you know, they would enjoy. For me, because the story for this Disney animated feature film, I think, was pretty good and decent. The characters were pretty good. The animation to Home on the Range, pretty good too. Like, you know, it had an interesting animation style, very different from any other Disney animated feature film that you would see. And take, for example, like, say, Sleeping Beauty, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Lilo and Stitch. There's a different style to them, but they still have that Disney animation fluent, if you get what I'm saying, you know. The songs for Home on the Range were pretty good too. The music and score by Alan Menken, some action-packed stuff, you know, like from the flash flood, the chase sequence, all the funny moments and emotional moments were pretty good too. Just everything about Home on the Range was pretty good and decent. And I'm giving Home on the Range, well, because of how much I enjoy it, well, I'm giving it, what the heck, 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, 8 out of 10 stars for Disney's Home on the Range. And what about you guys? What do you think of Disney's Home on the Range? Any of you that grew up watching this Disney animated feature film, you know, and if you had any fond memories watching it numerous times and, you know, checking out the bonus features on the DVD, and if any of you got to see this when it came out in theaters, I don't think me and my family, maybe we did, but I don't think we did see it in theaters. Just, you know, saw it until it came out on, you know, DVD, etc. Yeah. And yeah, like, who's your favorite character in Home on the Range? Which is your favorite song? Any funny moments and emotional moments? Everything that I've had to say about this Disney animated feature film. And what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Disney's Home on the Range. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned later tonight, because the next film I'm going to be reviewing, well, it just so happened to come out the same day when Home on the Range came out, and it too celebrating its anniversary. And to best describe to you guys what it is, well, let's just say it's a film directed by Del Toro, and Ron Perlman plays the titled character. Yeah, I'm sure you guys probably know what it is. Stay tuned for that. Take care, happy anniversary to Disney's Home on the Range, and peace out. Yeehaw!